welcome back to Bringing Hope and Freedom. I'm your host, Holly, along with Matt, and our resident expert here.
Oh, no.
Mr. Kirk.
Resident expert. That's fine.
I mean, you kind of are.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I don't really know if I'm an expert on anything. It's like, I think I know a little bit about a lot of things. So it's like, you know enough to get yourself into trouble. Like, I think that's the story of my life.
I think I feel that way about myself, too.
Yeah. I know enough to get myself in trouble. I get myself in trouble every week.
All the time?
Every week of my life. You
Someone's
did a
telling
good
you
job
what to do.
opening us up. That was your best open so far.
Oh, thanks.
Like, it was like very news anchor almost,
Tried
right?
to use my news anchor voice.
That's
I've been
right.
practicing.
She Diane Sawyered us last week with her like papers
I
that she
did.
was reading from.
It was an episode all about her.
Right.
It was,
Yeah.
My friends would say, well, that's typical. Right, right friends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we also have something to celebrate today, right?
Yes.
We do? What?
Yeah.
I
Right?
hit 133 Facebook followers.
Yeah. We should have we needed to have some sort of
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Carson put in sound effects. So just so you guys know, the next one that comes out, when I was talking about sound effects, Carson put in sound
did he?
effects into the episode. So, because I was telling him, like, Carson, I need some sort of I
Yeah.
need a sound effect pad. You know, like, wah, wah, something like that. So the last episode is going to have sound effects in it.
Oh, cool.
So Carson, as you're editing this out, we need some
The confetti
some
to drop from the
fireworks,
ceiling.
because, and then behind us the number, something like that.
I've started to take people's phones
Oh, nice.
and suggest to their friends to follow us. So
That's fantastic.
And it's working.
That's good.
if there's
It's working.
a phone sitting around, know that you don't want to give me your code because I'm going to put
Here,
it in.
I'll just do a mass text to everybody in my phone.
You don't text.
It's not.
Oh, you don't text?
Go
You just do
on.
it straight
Oh,
from
you're just
Facebook.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, well, show it to me. I'll just send it out.
We might not have time for that right now.
I know. But yeah, that's how we got there. So I will be putting out the clips, the bloopers. Yes.
Oh,
How
okay.
many are there?
There's I think there's 3.
Oh.
There's got to be more than 3. We just didn't capture them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have them clipped up. They're there. I need to go through and clip
Oh,
them
okay.
all up.
Yeah, you
but
got to
I
edit.
do have
You got to edit because Holly says some crazy stuff
all the time.
the before, we say, the opening is the best stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
That's but I do have 2 from the one day.
That's
You
pretty
just
good.
wait. It is pretty good.
That's pretty funny. So what are we unpacking today?
Today we're going to talk about abortion.
Okay.
So, hot topic, hot button issue in
Sure.
our world today.
Yeah.
And I think recently, was that last week we just had a conference? I don't know, what would you call that?
Yeah. We just had an event where
event.
just a pro-life event, but really just an opportunity there's all different types of ministries and programs in Pinellas County. They offer different services, and a lot of that kind of community is what I call segmented or fragmented from the rest of maybe the support systems that exist. So we wanted to have an event where we could bring a lot of those groups together that offer different services, and they need to learn how to work together and coordinate. Somebody might be a women's pregnancy center, and so they might provide services to a woman who doesn't want to get an abortion. Some people might be offering services to. Sorry, my phone is going off during. I normally silence.
I wasn't sure what the noise
my
was.
phone. Some people offer services for adoption. Some people offer services for healthcare. So there's all these different things that exist in the community. Great ministries and great resources for people, but they're not coordinated and they don't work together. And so one of the things that I think that we want to do as a church is we want to try to bring those resources together, because I think that we should be as pro-life as we possibly can be. And what is that? And I think then defining that is very important for people, because words have meaning, but then words take on different meaning depending on who uses them.
Yeah. So before you say that,
Sure.
let's just tell the listeners. A couple of weeks ago, you made an announcement to the church
Yeah.
that you thought that God was telling you that we were going to be or go ahead, you say it.
Okay.
What you actually said.
Yeah. Well,
That way we don't misquote
Yeah.
you.
Sure. I think I know what you're talking about. I make a lot of announcements to the church,
do.
but I think I know what you're talking about.
pro-life.
And yeah, I had some friends that were close to me. They went through a really difficult time. They lost a baby 6 months, close to 6 months, and this was the second baby that they lost. They lost a baby 6 days. They had a baby for 6 days, and they lost that infant, and then they had just lost this baby after about 5.5 months, close to 6 months, and it's happened to them in the last 2 years. And this last time I was with them in the hospital, and my friend was holding her baby, her lifeless baby, in her hands, and she had been praying for her baby, and I had been, and it was, you know, a really difficult season. And the baby had seen so many legitimate, like, God intervening miracles. I mean, it was a miracle that the baby was even alive. Right?
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of hope that they were going to be able to take their baby home, and so it was really sudden and it was really tragic what happened in their life. And so I was in the hospital room with them, and she's holding their baby, and we're praying together. And as she's holding her baby and we're praying, I realized, like, I want to be the type of person and the type of disciple of Jesus Christ where there's no fear in me to pray for and believe for anything. If it's good, I want to pray for it, and I want to believe it, and I want to have faith for it. That's the type of person that I feel like I'm supposed to be. That's what I feel like God's called me to be. And so as I pursue my relationship with Jesus, that's how I'm pursuing it. It's like I want to know God, I want to know Jesus, and in doing that, I don't want to be afraid of praying for anything and praying for anyone about anything. I want to be there to help, because I think that's what we're called to do. As Christians, we're called to serve. And here is my friend that I care for very much, and this baby that I care for very much, and we're praying for them. And I noticed inside of me that there was this place of fear and this place of doubt over praying that this baby would come back to life. And I know that might sound weird to people, but, you know, I'm just explaining how I felt. I wanted to pray that this baby would come back to life, and I want to be able to believe that can happen, and I want to have that kind of faith. And I realized in that moment, as I'm caring for this family, that there was doubt in me about that, and that was really hard for me, because I believe that I'm a person of faith, and I want to believe I'm a person of faith, and yet in this moment I'm realizing that there's areas of doubt in my life. And so that really impacted me, and I felt like a failure. I felt like, what kind of pastor am I? What kind of person am I that I would have doubt over something like this? And I know that might sound strange to everybody. But
It doesn't. I don't think it sounds strange.
I'm just explaining like the process. And so I decided that I needed to go into some prayer. So I didn't speak for a couple weeks here at church. Some people noticed. And I was just kind of praying and searching and allowing the Holy Spirit to do the work in me that I felt like needed to get done. And as I was praying and as I was just, you know, letting my heart bear before God and searching and trying to understand, I felt like the Holy Spirit, and who is the Holy Spirit? If you don't know what I'm talking about, I believe the Holy Spirit is God. The Holy Spirit is God's Spirit. The Bible talks about the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of truth, that He will bring remembrance to us of all things, that He will guide us in all things, He will convict us on unrighteousness, and ultimately I think a great way of understanding the Holy Spirit is He's the Spirit of truth that's been given to us in our lives to strengthen us, to guide us, and to keep us on this path. And so that's what I mean when I say the Holy Spirit. Some of what I mean. And so I felt like the Holy Spirit speak to me in that time of prayer and kind of reflection that, Kirk, I want you to become the most pro-life pastor that you can possibly become. And I want Abundant Life to become the most pro-life church that it possibly can become. And so I know that as soon as you say something like that, there's all kinds of connotations, and people are like, what are you talking about? What does that mean? And I've told people, like, I don't really know what that means. I didn't come up with it myself. I know when you say pro-life in our community, it means all kinds of stuff. I get that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that was spoken to me about my heart, and it's directly related to this issue of caring for life, caring for people. And as I've unpacked this a little bit personally, I begin to understand that what I think God wants of His church is God wants His church, His people, to care about people and to care about His creation from pre-born all the way to pre-death, and that we have a responsibility practically to care for, disciple, and love everybody in that process. And that I think sometimes the church or Christians segment out and choose which ones they're going to care about in the breadth of that process. And I felt like what God was saying is, Kirk, I don't want you to be that way. I want you to care about all of this. So I'm like, okay. Well, I didn't think I didn't. Number one, I didn't think I didn't, but then I realized that there was parts of me that didn't. And then number two, I think that practical care, there has to be action behind that practical care. And so that's what kind of this event, that's why I wanted to do this event. I just wanted to start to engage in those type of ministries and programs and things that are available around us to try to understand what people are doing and why they're doing it. So anytime God speaks something to me, I feel like there's something for me to learn. And I try to give myself over to that process of trying to learn and trying to understand this world that is around me on that topic so that I can lead well. So that's kind of what I've been doing, and that's what I think it means. I think being pro-life as a church and being pro-life as a pastor means, what do I think it means from a godly perspective? I think it means that we're supposed to care for the preborn all the way to the pre-death. We're supposed to understand that life is eternal, and we're supposed to be willing to speak truth and love to all of those people in that entire spectrum. And we're supposed to be practically caring for and discipling and intervening in all those things. And we're supposed to believe that God can step in and transform any one of those things in that entire process. And that's some of what I've unpacked with that so far.
That's a lot. That's a heavy unpacking.
Yeah. Well, it was a heavy thing.
Yeah.
It was a deeply impactful thing to me. And I care deeply about what I do and the people that are in my life. And that's why I'm kind of so driven, is I'm not emotional, I just care deeply. There's a difference. So you're not gonna see me, crying about everything. I'm driven, but the drive that I have comes from a deep passion that I have for the people. And so when someone that I care for is in pain, that really hurts me. And I wanna know, Lord, is there an answer to this pain? Now you don't get an answer to everything. There's some pain you don't get an answer to.
Right.
But if I can get an answer, I want to find it. Mm-hmm. And I want to be helpful, because Jesus says that he came to serve, not to be served, but to give his life up as a ransom for many. So if I've given myself over to this whole pastoring thing, I want to serve and I want to be able to help. And so my friend was in a painful situation and I felt like I couldn't help her, and I can't accept that in me. I can't. So I'm like, well, there's work to be done, Kirk. And so I'm just trying to go about that.
You mentioned that you felt like an emptiness when you were praying because you weren't fully believing.
Yeah.
So do you think, because I have felt that before, and I think it's because I haven't seen that happen.
Yeah.
I don't know that you've prayed and seen someone come back to life. So that's definitely, a struggle for all of us. For me, for a long time, it was seeing healing happen right away. Mm-hmm. When I'd pray, okay, I know you're going to do this, but when? Mm-hmm. Not it's going to happen right now. Mm-hmm. So I think that is something that we all might struggle with. Because we haven't seen. Yeah,
and I think it's normal. I don't think it's abnormal. I think it's normal to struggle with something that you haven't seen or you haven't experienced, not just in a faith walk or a spiritual walk, but just practically in life.
Right.
I think it's normal for people to be stressed out about being married. They haven't been married before. They don't know what they're signing up for. Mm-hmm. So I think there's too much in spiritual things. People struggle, I think, too much. They try to make it too complex. I don't think it's that complex. I think it's just like anything else that we experience. I think it's actually more real than some of the stuff that we experience in I guess you could say, in what we think is reality. I think the spiritual realities are the deeper realities, and I think they're deeper meaning. And I think it's normal in spiritual things to not know what something's going to look like, feel like, sound like before it happens. And I think it's also normal to have a sense of doubt over those things because you haven't experienced them.
Right.
And that's why faith is so important from a Christian perspective. And that's why I think we're brought back to that faith, because faith is the belief it's the hope for things not yet seen, not yet experienced. That would be one of the definitions of faith in the Bible.
So I've hesitated for a long time to bring this topic up on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I struggle with believing 100% in, that abortion should be banned and everything. We kind of talked about this in the past, but some of the listeners,
Sure.
didn't get inside the conversation. So
you want to let them inside the conversation?
yeah, so I'm gonna, one of the questions I have is, let's say a young girl gets raped by a family member or anybody.
Sure.
Where do you stand with her having that child? Or even not, it doesn't even have to be a young child. Even an adult who gets raped by anybody, where do you stand with them having that child or not having that child?
Yeah.
And what does, the Bible say about it?
Okay, great question. It is a good question. It's an important question. It's a pertinent question. And one of the things that I watch happen in the Christian world is when questions come up, the term that they have is apologetics. Apologetics is about having an answer. That's what it is. Apologetics, a base form of understanding of apologetics is being ready to have an answer for the hope that you believe. That's the source of it from a Christian perspective. And so what I've seen and I want to segment it out, because right now in our world, there's this fight, and the fight that's happening in our country is this fight that seems to exist between liberal and conservative or Republican Democrat. And so because of that, words take on different meanings and everything is politicized, and there's this combativeness that comes in the situation. And so what I think is what happens in that environment because of that conflict, even the apologetic or the answer that's given, I think sometimes is lacking because, and so I've decided that my come from is going to be what I call compassionate apologetics, meaning I think there's an answer, but there's also people involved in the process of that answer. And too many people, when they're giving answers, they write out the people and they just go right to the issue. They go right to the topic. And I think that's very unhealthy because people are listening, right? And as people are listening, they're being pushed away rather than being brought in. And I don't think that that's the right thing, the right approach for the church. We want to bring people in, not to ourselves, but to Jesus Christ. So when I answer these questions, my come from, because people are hearing this for the first time, and you're hearing this for the first time, my come from is what I call compassionate apologetics. I want to give you an answer while I am thinking about the impact that that answer has on people. Make sense?
Right.
And I think it's very important that Christians take on that perspective. There is an answer, there is truth. Truth is not an idea, truth is a person. From a Christian perspective, truth should be a person, and that person is Jesus Christ. And the model of truth and the way of going about truth from my perspective is following truth in the way that Jesus followed it. Jesus said hard things, he spoke hard truths, but he was compassionate and loving to people. I want to do the same thing. So my answer is coming from a concept of compassionate apologetics. People are involved, but there is an answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So the issue of rape and what should or shouldn't be done. I think let's take it in a couple of different pieces. Here's the first piece. I don't think that there's a state in the United States that doesn't have a law that allows certain decisions to be made in, for instance, the health of the mother, rape, incest, certain qualifications. Every single state in our United States of America provides for some sort of answer to the mother or to the person who's been impacted by that, okay? So the idea that that's not available in our nation, I think needs to be pushed back against, because it is. And it's a talking point that is politicized. And I don't think it's not even an arguable fact. It's just stated. Every single state in the entire country has provisions for that. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And I think those listeners, I'd encourage people who are listening to go out and educate yourself, because these things become talking points for politics. And I think the way to supersede that or to get over that is to educate yourself. And education leads to empowerment. Stop allowing yourself to be politicized. My encouragement to people is stop allowing yourselves to be drawn into this conflict for the purposes of being used to support somebody else's view. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Stop being politicized and start being educated. And in being educated, you're going to get empowered. The whole concept that we as a culture don't allow that, it's not true. We do allow it. Every single state allows it. And even some of the what you might consider pro-life legislation that's being passed allows for those provisions. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
All right. And I hope that makes sense to our listeners. It's important that they hear that. The next thing is this. Now, that's the state. And we call the state, that's the government. The government is actually allowing for that. The state is actually allowing for that. Okay, now I'm going to get into what I would consider God and the Christian perspective. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Someone was raped.
Correct.
Okay. Someone had incest in their home. Something like that happened. The person who was raped and the person who, whether it's rape and I mean, I don't know why we say rape and incest, because it's the same thing. One was raped by a family member, one was raped by a non-family member. It's still rape. So rape or incest, both disgusting, both terrible.
Right.
Okay. Can we just talk about that person for a second? Because it's like, what about rape and incest? And then we go to all this other stuff. Like, okay, well, someone was raped.
Right.
I just want to stop politicizing these heinous acts that are done to people. I want to stop doing it. I can't stand it, because their whole life is now could walk in devastation because of what has happened to them. And they matter too. All right. So I think we should start like shooting people that rape people and do these things. I think it's terrible. And as a culture, it's like, and in the political world and in these conversations, I just see people they're just thrown away and they're just cast aside and they're just talked about as if they're just these pieces of trash. So I think we should have harsher penalties on some of these things. And it's a massive issue in our culture. But they were raped, and that person matters, and that person is a person, and that person has value, and God loves that person. And these are all true things. And so if people have been raped, there's so many people have been abused, and they never tell anybody, and they live with this private thing for their whole lives, and it's devastating them. So I just want to say, if these things have happened to you, please, there are great ministries, and not everyone can be trusted, but there are trusted ministries, and they're great people. And if you're listening to this, or you have friends that are listening to this, reach out to me, and I will get you help. Like, I will help you. And I have friends and I have people that will help you. Because if these things are happening to you, you need help and you need care. And there's a pathway for your life, and there's healing for your life after this moment. And I just wish when people would talk about these things that they would say that, because somebody listening has had that happen to them.
Right.
And they need to know that. All right. Now, something was done to them that wasn't their choice, right?
Right.
That's what rape is. Non-consensual sex. It was forced upon them, right? And so the question becomes, well, what if that happens? Shouldn't they then have a choice to not have this baby? And here's the question that I would ask is, well, hold on a second. Doesn't that baby have a choice? See, the mom in that scenario didn't have a choice. And the moral question that we get from God's perspective is, yeah, no, she didn't have a choice. The choice was taken from her. That's true.
Correct.
Okay. But what about that life that is in her now? Does that life have a choice? So this last event that I had, where I had different people speaking, and I didn't know this, but one of the women that was speaking, I think she's helped open something like 22 pregnancy centers all over the country. 2,200 pregnancy centers all over the country. She is like, her life's goal is to help women and to help care for them and give them options that they need. So she got up and she was talking about this rape, incest, and inclusion in bills and stuff. And she began to tell her story. Her mother was raped.
Oh, wow.
Her mother was raped. And her mother decided to keep her. And so she gets up and she goes, hey guys, just so you know, and it was powerful because she's standing up there. She goes, my mother was raped. She decided to keep me. So every single time you guys are talking about a rape, inclusion, or a willing abortion, guess who you're talking about? You're talking about me. And you want to talk about silence in a room. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. You could hear people breathing. Because in front of us is this person, right, who is alive because the mom decided, I didn't have a choice, but I'm going to give this kid a choice. And that's the moral question that's being asked there. And I want to answer it. God says that child deserves a choice. That life deserves a choice. There's going to be an impact on that mother for sure. But what we do, the only person that we're helping in that scenario is the guy who raped her. You know, the person who, because the abortion is going to be painful for the mother either way.
Correct.
And I think that's the other thing that needs to be talked about in regards to this whole conversation. Abortion is an ugly thing no matter what.
Right.
Physically and emotionally.
Physically and it's an ugly thing no matter what, right? And I think, it's politicized. It's politicized, and it's like all this stuff. And I'm like, let's just talk about it for what it actually is. We need to talk about it for what it actually is. What we're talking about doing is ending a life. And I think people need to get educated on the process of what abortion actually is and what it actually looks like. And unfortunately, people have been educated and they've been told that this is not a life, there's no life, the baby's not alive, nobody can feel anything, nothing's happening, it's like no harm, no foul. That's not true. It's just simply not true. And all the science and all the information that we have today tells us that that's not the case. And so it's not like we're not just coming at this from a faith standpoint. We're coming at this from facts. We're coming at this, and by the way, I think anybody who tells you to have blind faith is ridiculous, and that's not what the Bible tells you to have. The Bible doesn't tell us to have blind faith. Why would we have the Bible?
Right.
I've got all this stuff
Yeah.
that I can verify, and all this stuff is not saying have blind faith. Okay, so like I don't have to close my eye. No, I'm not doing that. I look at all the technology, look at all the medical advancements that we have. We know what is going on. Nobody's confused about what's going on inside the mother. No one's confused about where life is being developed and what life is like. There's no confusion about that, and you can go and you can find all kinds of information on the processes of what actually abortion is. Okay, and the idea that somehow it's a healthy process for the mother and there's no impact on her body, that's not true. That's ridiculous, and it needs to be pushed against. And women need to be educated about what is happening to their body. Women are being politicized as a political weapon. And I would, if I was a woman living today, man, I would be on fire about how women and women's rights and women's health, all this stuff is like, it's like a political game. You know, and it's being talked about by like 75-year-old men and 75-year-old women. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous to me. And so I just think that we should educate mothers, and that's what pro-life centers do. That's what pregnancy centers do. They actually educate the mother on the processes. They get them scans and they help them understand. But I would say the moral question from God is that mother didn't get a choice. The choice was taken from her.
Right.
And now, when we then tell her, well, your only choice is abortion. That's what we're saying to her. And we're only going to cause pain in her life, and we're only going to end the life of that child. So the only person that's getting out of that situation is the person who raped her. And as a culture, I think that it's an indictment on who we are as a culture, personally. I think who we are as a culture, there are such problems with how we view life in general and how we view people in general, how we view women. I mean, women are such like this, in our culture, the way we view women is so jacked up.
Right.
It's so messed up. I don't have other words to this. You know, I've got words, but they're not nice words. I can't say it on, it's like so messed up how we view women in our world and how we view life in our world. And so we say to the mom, well, now because of what's been happened to you and because how bad this is for you, now the only thing for you to do is get an abortion, which is only going to wound you more and only going to end your child's life. And I just think that there needs to be a soul check that we have as a culture and as a people, that's the only option we want to give that mom, right, in those circumstances. And this is what the church is for. And I just think the church has to stand up. The church has to stand up and be counted. Like, I think we're going to be accountable to these kind of things. And that's what it means. When I say I want to be pro-life, like I want to be invested in that mother's life. I want to be right there with her, saying, I want to help you. I want to give you options. I want to walk through this with you. Everybody else has rejected you. They raped you. They're telling you kill the baby. And then after that, by the way, after the abortion, ain't nobody going to be there for her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let's let's talk about that, because that, that's not an easy decision to make, first of all.
No.
And the years of shame, I'm sure, that follow that. So God, I just want to tell these women, like, God still loves you. Like,
Yeah.
there's, you just you did nothing wrong. I mean, like, even though, I guess, I don't know, is that a sin because you're actually killing someone?
Yeah,
Or how's that?
well, yeah, Holly. I mean, welcome to the complexity of our culture,
Yeah.
and what our culture and where we're at as a people. Because I'll just share this, what I consider to be this testimony from this last Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Because these things are so important to me, and I've been praying about them a lot. But I felt like I was supposed to preach on sin these last couple weeks in our church, and the power of confession, the whole testimony that we had last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the root of it is dealing with sin, and the process that God has given us to deal with sin, and how positive confession is going to bring healing and will bring healing. So in the back of my mind is all these life issues. It's abortion, it's adoption, it's all these things, and I'm considering all these things, and I'm looking into it, and I'm being critical of the church. I'm just trying to unpack it, right? In the back of my mind, I want to talk about all this stuff. But right now, I feel like the Holy Spirit's guiding me to talk about sin and confession. So, I mean, I'm hammering it the last couple weeks, and on second service, after second service on Sunday, a young girl walks up to me. I'm not going to share her name. A young girl walks up to me, and she's shaking. And she's saying, I just need to talk to you. I feel like I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay, well, talk to me. And I'm holding her hands, and she's shaking, and she says, I'm suicidal. I just want to end my life. I don't think my life has any value. And she says, the reason is because I had an abortion. I had an abortion, and I didn't tell anyone. I haven't told my family. Nobody knows. And she's telling me, and she's shaking, and then she falls into my arms. Like, she just like comes into my arms. I sit her down, and I run and I go get Dan and Molly Grigg. And they lead what's called Deeper Still. And it's a post-abortion care and counseling that we have at our church. And I'm like, Dan and Molly, I need you right now. This young girl needs you guys right now. And I was so happy, because the whole reason I'm like doing this is for her. Like, I know that she's made a decision, that she's not feels terrible is such like it's not even the word. She's devastated about the decision that she's made. The truth of life is coming into her from God's word, and she has conviction over her, and she thinks that everyone's going to reject her. And yet she encounters God's love and redemption. So I would say, yes, they sinned, and we all sin, and all men have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Yes, it's a sin, and it's wrong, and it shouldn't be happening. But is there redemption after that? Yes, there is. This is why Jesus went to the cross. And it is messy, and it is dirty. It's like, childbirth is messy and ugly, and it's beautiful at the same time, right?
If you say so.
I mean, we would know.
It is, guys. It is. Childbirth is bloody. There's water. It's this, the mother's in pain. I mean, this intense process, and yet new life comes from it. And so, yeah, it's a sin, and I believe it's wrong, and God says it's wrong. Jesus went to the cross for the sin of this world. And so it's messy, it's complex, it's bloody, but it also will bring new life. And so we can't shy away from it. We have to press into it, because there's girls like that all over the world, and all over our state, and all over our county, and all over our country. They need to hear the truth. And the truth is that sin is real. The truth is that sin is destructive. The truth is that we've all made sinful decisions. But the truth also is that there's a cross, that there's the power of that cross, and there's redemption after that. And there's new life that comes with it. And so that's why I don't want to shy away from the conversation, not to bring judgment and not to bring shame, but to bring life. But until we talk about the truth of it, you're not going to experience life. You're going to stay in it. And now that young girl, she is going to walk in new life. She's going to have new life. She's going to have a practically new life. But And I wasn't preaching on abortion, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I was preaching on the
Yeah.
power of confession and releasing your sin and dealing with it. And I was so proud of her. I was just like, you are so strong, and this is like such the right path. And I think the church just needs to do that, you know? And it doesn't wipe away, and I'm not in any way saying that the rape is right. No. No. And I'm not in any way saying that that woman's life now has been devastated. No. But I'm just saying, just because that man decided to, or woman, whatever happens, right? Just because that devastation came into that life doesn't mean that we should cause more devastation as a result of it. And I know it's a complex thing to talk about, but I think we should talk about it. And I think that we have all these state provisions for abortion, for instance. We have all these state provisions for all kinds of things. Well, okay, if it's really rape and incest and that's what happens, why can't we then take those funds and support that child and give that? And if maybe the mom can't handle the child, okay, well then take those state funds and let's get that kid into adoption. Let's get that mom care and health. And I'm not minimalizing it, but that's a small percentage of the abortions that actually happen. You know, we're dealing rape and incest and those kind of things are such a small portion of the greater ring. So we're taking this one aspect of it and we elevate it and say, yeah, but this. Okay, yeah, but this. Let's talk about that. But these other 99% of these things are not that. It's not the same thing.
I felt today when both of us were very busy at work, and I just felt like we weren't meant to get here because we were talking about this. And I kind of wanted to cancel today just because I struggle with this.
Sure.
And I struggle with not a lot about what you're saying, but, you know, the guy who rapes the woman, besides going to jail, there's really no repercussions for him. It all falls on the woman.
All of it.
And
the guys impregnate, and he was, like, if it's not rape, these guys impregnate these women, all these different women, you know, having these babies, and then there's no, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I'm not a believer in using abortion as a way of birth control for yourself. If you're making mistakes, you know, like, it's really not a mistake. You know, if you're having sex with somebody, you're having sex, you know, that is a possible outcome.
Right.
You know, but I really struggle because I feel for the woman. Like, if she has this kid and she's not mentally prepared, I don't want to say mentally stable, but mentally prepared to have this kid, she's going to struggle, and then this child's going to struggle their whole lives. And the mother might resent the child because of what happened. And I feel that not every woman's going to get the help that they need if they do decide to have the kid. And then we're in a sad situation for two people and not just one.
Yeah, but where's the hope in that, Matt? Where's the faith in that? Where's the chance for them to make the choices for their life in that? We're presupposing an outcome. And that's what I'm saying. The moral question has to be asked. When we presuppose these outcomes upon people, we are negating the truth that we see all around us, which is all of us, every single one of us have had choices in our lives. Right. I didn't have some sort of like golden lollipop life. That's not what I got.
Right.
I had to make my choices, and then I suffered a lot in my life as a result of it. And I think that that's true about so many different people. I just think that there's this presupposition upon the mother and upon the child that it's all going to go bad and that there's no hope and no chance, and what is she going to do? Well, the truth about life is that we all have to work. We all have to sacrifice. We all have those choices to make. And what we keep doing as a society is we keep saying, well, it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad, so we just keep doing all these other bad things. Instead of really gut checking ourselves and asking ourselves the hard truth is that we don't really care. We just don't want to deal with it. The truth is that we just don't care. We don't care about these people in these situations. And if people are, and then the other question is like, you know, what is the outcome morally on us as a people when we just allow people to end life because life is inconvenient for them? And where does that stop? where then do we begin to say no? So now, unfortunately, in our culture, because of that thought process, they're not aborting babies in the womb. They're killing babies after they're born. And there's laws that are being developed where babies that are being born that are fully alive and fully functional and fully healthy, that they can end that baby's life in the first couple days. And the question that I would ask morally is how is that any different than any other murder that would ever happen in our culture? So what changes it? So 2 weeks go by and the baby goes home, and if the dad decides to strangle the baby, that's no longer abortion. Now we call that murder and the dad's going to jail. Versus a doctor, when the mom says, I don't know if I can care for the baby, and the doctor kills the baby. I need to know the moral difference between those two things. What's the difference? Because we hear on the news all the time, like, oh, this mom can't handle her kids, and so she goes drown all 3 of her kids. Come on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, somebody tell me the moral difference between that, because to me there is no moral difference. She's saying 3 years later she couldn't do it, and so she's killing that baby, and now we call that murder. But how is that any different than the baby that's in the womb? There's no moral difference. And as a society, we have to be willing to say there's no moral difference. And then we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say that we are selfish people, because there are people who are going through all kinds of hell and we disregard it and we don't care. And if the government won't do anything about it, we as Christians have a responsibility to do something about it. And that's what it means to be pro-life. And there's too many Christians, and we have the biggest churches with the biggest budgets that have ever existed in all of history, in all of humanity, and we got people starving in the street, and we've got mothers that need help, and we got all these things. And what has happened in the Christian world is the Christians have said, oh, that's the government's responsibility. Well, look at what the government does with that. The government politicizes it, and who's ever in power makes it seem like it matters to them until they get in power, and then guess what? It doesn't matter to them anymore. And so I just think that we have to look at ourselves and as Christians, and I'm talking to the Christian world, and this is what it means to be pro-life. What it means to be pro-life is we as people should be engaged to the extent that we can with those situations. I have a friend, and he's made all kinds of money in business, and he goes, Kirk, I just feel like I got to do something to help this whole abortion issue. And you know what he wants to do? He's going to pay women to keep their babies. He's going to house them, and he's going to set up scholarship funds for the kids if they'll keep the babies, and he'll help them get it adopted if they need. So if their family's going to reject them, or they don't have help, or there's a situation, they're going to be able to go to him. He's going to house them, he's going to scholarship them, and he's going to help them. And I think that what the church has to start doing is the church has to start engaging in these situations in that way, and we have to start putting our money where our mouth is. And if we really care for this woman, then what are we going to do?
I just always think that we need to have things in place before we can start pushing more anti-abortion. We need to have things in place all over the U.S. I'm not just saying here at Abundant Life.
Yeah.
I almost call it the old church. Abundant Life, but I think all over, because the person who's here may have help, but the person in Texas or Georgia might not have the same help with people around them. And I worry about the kids, just the way they might grow up or whatever situation they may be in. And like you said, it's all, you don't know what's going to happen to them when they come out. And I get that, but I just think that we need to have things in place for the woman before we can start, or even the child, before we can really start saying, abortion is completely wrong in every situation.
Yeah, but Matt, how does anything change, buddy? How does anything change? You have to first set a line somewhere, and because you have to ask yourself, where's the line? Where's the line, and why does the line matter? And so if you don't set that, see, everybody thinks that, oh well, what's the mom going to do? What's the mom going to do? What's the mom going to do in their life of abortion? We're negating the life of the child that exists in there, and we're not giving that child an opportunity, and we're presupposing on that child that their life is only going to be bad. And so what I would say to people who think that is, You need to go talk to all these other people who have survived abortions. You need to go to talk to all these other single parents that are trying to make it in their life. And you should ask, because when this woman stood up at this pro-life event and said, hey, by the way, you're talking about me, that's when it becomes real. So I think that too often we're filled with this false sense of compassion. What about the mom? What about the mom? And we negate, what about the child that's alive? It's not a question of whether that child's alive. That child's alive. And so we make all kinds of decisions in our culture. The government passes all kinds of laws all the time. Laws are passed constantly, right? When they're ready to tax us, it don't take that long, does it, Matt?
No, it does not.
Tax rate goes up, guess what? You're getting taxed next week. You didn't pay that tax, where are you going to end up? Jail. Right? It takes them 6 months to a year, if not 2 years, to pay you what they owe you the whole time. And yet, if we don't pay something else, where are we going to end up? And I just refuse the concept that we pass all these laws all the time. All these things get done in our culture, and it gets done like this. If it mattered to us as a people, Matt, it would get done like this. Now, what I'm saying is it should start to matter to us as a person. I'm not saying the mother's life doesn't matter. The mother's life matters. We have all kinds of welfare programs all the time. Right? And what happens with those programs is they're politicized. TSA, right here and right now. You know why TSA was started? TSA was started after 9/11. To what? To ramp up airport security. Airport security was not the cause of 9/11.
Right.
Okay, so we set up TSA, and TSA is supposed to be increased airport security because of what happened in 9/11. And now what is happening with TSA? TSA is being used as a political bargaining chip so everybody gets what they want done. When something matters, it gets done. And I'm saying as a people, we should start saying the mother matters and the child matters. Stop making excuses. It's our money anyway. Tax money doesn't fall from the sky. It's our money.
Right.
And right now, as taxpayers and as believers, I feel like the obligation is on us to tell our government what you're saying. This matters. Stop legislating murder, because that's what it is, and stop acting like it's okay, and start actually caring about these situations and doing something about it. Because if it matters, there's more money than they know what to do with. We know that from the last couple years. You know, everyone got mad about Doge, but when all that stuff's coming out, we're sending $24 million for sex education in Iraq. We're sending $9 million for transvestite dancing in Nigeria. I mean, these are legitimate things. I'm not like joking around. Like, there's a bill going out. Okay? So we've got all this money going to all this other stuff. And I think if we truly cared about the life of the mother, and we truly cared about that, and that's actually what we cared about as a culture, give them the money.
Right. I agree with you that
help them out. If it really mattered, help them out. But let's stop saying that we really care, because the truth is that we just don't want to deal with the circumstances as a culture. We don't want to deal with our own decisions, because, like you said it, people are having sex. It's not some sort of I tripped down the stairs and got pregnant. Okay? And so it's like, okay, you're making these decisions. Okay, and you're saying you can't handle these decisions, but you're making these decisions. Well, and then transfer that to anything else in life. If I drive drunk tonight, if I decide to get drunk and I drive my car and I run into somebody and I kill them, I go to jail. Why?
It's the consequence of drinking and driving.
I did it. It was caused from my decision. But what we say in the whole conversation of abortion, now take what we just know to be true and put it with the concept of abortion. And we get in front of a judge and say, I don't want to really deal with the consequences of this decision. And what's the judge going to say? Well, you were the one who got drunk. You're the one who got in your car. So whether you want to deal with the consequences of the kisses doesn't really matter, because you hit somebody with your car, bud. Right?
Right.
And so I just think that there's a desensitization that is happening around this whole conversation, and it comes because I think that the mother has been used as a political thing. Well, what do we do for her? And my comment is, what are we going to do for her? What are you doing for her other than saying she can have an abortion? And by the way, that wrecks her as a person, and that wrecks her body, destroys her body. It's not healthy for her in any capacity whatsoever. And now they're doing chemical abortions. Well, I just found out about this. And what they're doing is so now, if they're not doing abortions in the clinic, they're doing chemical abortions. And they're telling these moms, no, you can take these things and you can have an abortion. So now they're not having an abortion in a clinic with a doctor. Where are they having an abortion? They become the abortionist. They're having abortions in their homes. They don't know what's going on. They've been told that this is a clump of cells. They take this pill that's now legalized in their home with nobody around to help them, and they begin to have a baby that's already dead, and they're giving birth to their dead baby in their bathtub by themselves. And please somebody tell me how this is good for the mother to be alone by herself giving birth in a bathroom with a baby in her hands. Somebody tell me how that is good for her. And it's not good for them. And what happens is these women now are taking these babies and they're putting them in bags and they don't know what to do with them. And then finally they're going to pregnancy centers, and this is happening in the state of Florida, and they're bringing the babies with them and they're saying, can you please help me because I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody told me what I was doing. They don't speak, most of them don't speak English in this state. I'm just finding out about this stuff. And it's like, please stop telling me, what are we going to do for these moms? Because nobody cares about these moms. Nobody does, because of the way we're treating them. If the mom mattered so much, then someone would be doing something about it. I don't think the mom matters too much. I don't think we want to deal with our decisions. I think that we just want to act like they're not there, and I think it's who we are as a culture. And until we change as Christians and get involved, until our hearts change and shifts, there's not going to be any change in our world today. Christians need to speak to the government. The government needs to stop speaking to us. Christians need to speak to culture. We got to stop letting the culture speak to us. Life matters on all stages. And if it matters, then that mom matters. And somebody has to lead the way. And we have got to stop kind of closing our eyes to the pain of this situation, and I think we got to step into it. And I'm not making excuses for it in any capacity whatsoever, but it's not an indictment. We have to stop having these children pay the price for what is very clearly a cultural issue. And that's what's going on right now. We're holding the kids accountable for what our decisions are as a people. And I think that shouldn't be tolerated. I think it's wrong.
I mean, we talked about this before, but a kid in the U.S. to adopt one is 3 times more expensive than anywhere else.
I know, man.
It's the hardest thing to do. They run people, through the ringer who want a child.
Right.
And you can go adopt a child from China, Japan.
It's expensive there too, by the way.
Well, it is, but you don't go through nearly the things you have to here in the U.S. And that is a system change that needs to happen here in the U.S. for sure.
Yes.
And
why is adoption not an option? It's like the only option we're giving people is, they need an abortion. I mean, what are they going to do? And we have completely gone away from adoption. And you know who was the biggest leader of adoption in the United States? The church. Christians were. And these are spiritual things, guys. Okay, so let me throw some history on you. All right, so in the Roman world, there were these shrines that were developed because this whole idea of adoption and abortion is not a new issue. It's not a new issue. It's been going around as long as people have been going around. And so in Roman society, there were these you could say shrines that were developed, and people that didn't want their kids would put these babies on their shrines. Okay, and so one of 3 things would happen. One would be wild animals would come and eat the children. 2, sex trafficking is not a new thing. sex traffickers would take these kids and raise them and use them as slaves. The vast majority of them, you know who would take them? Christians. Christians would come and grab them, take them, and adopt them. And throughout the Bible, there are these three very specific gods in the Bible. One of the gods is Molech. And so culturally, what would happen in some of these cultures that the Israelites eventually go into the Promised Land to fight is they had statues, and a statue was called Molech. And here's what they would do, because an unwanted child and unwanted pregnancy, and they would sacrifice to these gods. And so what they would do is they would light a fire underneath of these gods, and the gods would turn red hot, and they would put the babies on this altar, sacrificing them, and they would burn them alive. And as archaeologists have gone into some of these cultures, what they are finding is they are finding these sites where they would take babies and they were shoving babies in jars, they were lighting babies on fire, and there are these moats at which the blood and all the stuff would flow down and would fill all these crevices. And they would lie to the parents, and they were taking this unwanted baby or unwanted pregnancy, or were sacrificing to the gods. They would bang the drums so loud that so that the parents and the people would not hear the screams of the baby on these altars. And when God calls the Israelites into these lands, he's specifically casting judgment upon these people for the way that they're treating their children. Right now, what we have going on inside of our world, to me, biblically, to answer the question, is what I would consider child sacrifice. We hate ourselves, and we hate who we have become as a people, and we are engaged in, and our culture is engaged in child sacrifice in a massive way. There's a spiritual reality to what we're doing. So next to Molech would also be these other gods. Molech is the god where they would have child sacrifice, and the god that would be next to them is the god of sexual freedom. So on one side you have this god of child sacrifice, on the other side you have a god of sexual freedom. So what was going on? People were having all kinds of crazy orgies and crazy sexual experiences, and what happens when we have sex?
You have kids.
You're pregnant.
You get a baby. Your baby's unwanted, but it's okay. We have a convenient option for you for this unwanted pregnancy. It's called the god of Molech. So live this sexual life however you want. Don't worry about the consequences of that, because we've got this god here. And the other option is you put your baby on the shrine. Animals can eat them. Sex traffickers can take them. Maybe the Christians will come and grab them. This is the kind of that world that was existing as the Roman Empire was developed, and that other world is the world that existed that the Israelites were called in to destroy. So now take that into our current culture. What is one of the cultural things that we have going on inside of our world today? Live free, have sex with who you want, when you want, how you want, with whoever you want. Like, don't deny yourself. Denying yourself is bad. Live however you want to live. And what is the result of that? Babies. And don't worry about the result of that, because you can just simply have an abortion. It's the god of Molech, and it's the god of Ashtaroth. It's the same issues that have existed in culture, and I'm saying that these things are things that God hates. And these are the things that he sent his son to die for. They're evil, and that they're wrong. And the church's perspective has to be to start from there. We have to call these things what they are. And if we don't call these things what we are, we will continue to suffer the consequences as a culture and as a people. I think that, and the truth is that it's like we've talked about, the impact of this mother is her life is destroyed, her life is devastated. There's not freedom that comes with it, and they deal with that pain for the rest of their life. I'm saying it's not better for the mom, and everything that we have is saying it's not better for the mom. It's not. And we need to look at ourselves in our hearts, and we need to say, okay, if we're actually compassionate, loving people, there's got to be a better way. Adoption, support systems, all these things need to come into play.
Right.
And we got to stop. We got to stop making excuses for who we are as a people and what we are as a culture. And I think we got to deal with it. It's ugly. It's disgusting. It's wrong on every single level. People are politicized. Rape politicized. Incest politicized. Women politicized. And all the while, they're just walking around in pain with devastation. Right?
Right.
God's way is about life. And so when we then go and do it our way, we suffer death. And that's what this all comes to. God has a way, and he said, get married, have as much sex as you want. And when you have babies, you're going to have a support system to care for it. You're not going to be alone. I mean, I'm not trying to degrade how you feel about these women. I'm just trying to lovingly challenge you. And I'm saying I don't think it's loving for a woman to be having an abortion in a home by herself with nobody there, because she was told that her kid doesn't matter and it's a clump of cells and it's going to be okay. And she actually gives birth and she sees the baby for the first time and she realizes what she's done. I'm saying that's not caring for that woman. It's not. And as a culture, we have to stop allowing ourselves to believe a lie. And the lie that we've told women is that it's your body, it's your choice, do what you want, there's no repercussions, it's all going to be fine. That's not true. It's not true. It's not practically true for them. It's not practically true for their bodies, and it's not practically true for the child. And you're right. And you say, okay, well, Pastor Rick, you say that. What about all these things? Yeah, I know. I know. I know. But there's money out there doing all kinds of crazy crap. Right. Why don't like someone start writing checks, right? It's like, come on. Like, I know, man. I know. But don't tell me that the way out of the wrong thing is another wrong thing. Because I have to push back morally and I have to say no. I can't accept that. We have to say the right way out of the wrong thing is the right way. Let's get to the right way. And I think we have a responsibility to start holding our politicians, and who cares about the political party? I don't care. It's both of them. It's all of them as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
It's like, look, don't tell me that you care about all these poor people. I ain't seen you feed anybody. Don't tell me you care about all these people who are having all these problems. Where are you? Where are you?
Right.
You're not there. It's not happening, right?
Right.
So, no, I'm sorry. You're some senator that's 75 years old. You live in some mansion. You weren't rich before you got into Congress, now you're rich. Tell me how that happened. And you're telling me you care about all these people. I ain't ever seen you help anybody. And that's both parties, by the way. I ain't talking like that's both of them, right?
Yeah.
So let's just start calling it what it is. We got all these people that are getting rich. We got all these people writing checks to all this nonsense. And then we've got these real issues that's affecting 1.5 million women and 1.5 million children every single year in our nation. Think about it. Okay, it's 1 million. So I'll just put it this way. 1.5 million to 1 million abortions in the United States. We care so much about the mother. We sent $27 million to another country for drag queens. You could give them all that money.
Right.
Yeah.
We care so much. What about the mom? Give her the money. Right?
Right.
All right. So come on. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars being sent all over. Say, what about the woman's health? What about the woman's health?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I think until we start speaking that to these political places that are making these decisions, we're going to just, again, women are being politicized, they're being destroyed. I think that we hate women in our culture when we actually look at it. They are sexualized, they're demonized, they're brutalized. And I think when I look at it, I'm like, we're lost as a people. And so I think a Christian perspective is to look at it and say, yo, what are we doing? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Matt, I don't think it means that we don't care for the mom. I don't think that means that we just say, oh, well, you had sex, so deal with it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have to stop saying that. Right?
Right.
And let's get adoption agencies back up. It's crazy. It's $50,000 or $60,000 to adopt. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Right? Let's change the way that we educate people on sex.
Yeah.
Let's stop saying that life doesn't exist and there's no truth, and let's stop telling everybody that there's no repercussions to their decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't that be the process? And we got to ask ourselves that question. And I think it's because it's a spiritual thing. I encourage people, go look up Molech, go look up Ashtaroth, go look up chemical abortions, go look up what actually happens to the woman after she has an abortion. Go look this stuff up. And that's what I've been doing. And I tell you what, it's been challenging me. And I encourage, like, get educated. Go into it, you know. And it's nasty, and it's crazy, and it's hard, man. It's hard. And you're right. Not everyone's going to be like me. Not every church is going to be like us.
Right.
I know that. I'm aware. People tell me all the time. But I'm not going to let that be an excuse for me. Like, okay, yes, I agree with you. But I'm still going to try. Because, like, I see my friend and I see that baby. And so, no, I'm going to try. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to for me. I'm going to try. I don't know another way of being. I can't do it. I can't live with myself. I can't say that I'm pro-life and just want legislation that says you can't have an abortion. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I can't say that. I have to invest myself in all those realities. And I think pastors have to preach that. I think they have to teach that. I think Christians have to live that. Because I think that's what we're called to do as Christians. And I think the Christian world has to stop looking to the government like it's the solution. The government is not a solution. They only cause problems.
That's true.
And we have to start being the solution. People have to start being the solution, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that's an indictment on us. I'm aware.
I think that's where my issue is that there's not enough stuff out there for the woman, and to come out and say don't have an abortion and make that, you know, a law across the board, that is where I struggle, because, you know, you're gonna find babies in dumpsters. I mean, it's a reality. You're gonna find babies abandoned. I'm not saying that that's okay.
Yeah.
I just can't say we gotta stop something if we don't have things in place. I know it's not a popular thing to say on a Christian podcast.
Yeah.
It's something I struggle with. But,
Yeah.
you know, like you said, the government's not going to do it for us. We need to do it.
Yeah, no, the problem is the Christian, because here's what I would say. If the kid's in the dumpster, are you going to take it out?
Right. Well, I'm saying if you read the stories, usually it's a dead child left.
Well, yeah, but there's other stories that are not. And I think we have to ask the questions. So I think it's fine to say those things, and I get what you're saying, but we have to ask the question of what that means. You know, and so there's deep soul searching that I think people need to do on these issues of life. They're real issues. And I just think that we are a little bit naive and not educated. And I think we kind of close our eyes and pull ourselves back from the realities. And I think our culture and our world allows us to do that. It allows us to isolate ourselves from what's going on in people's lives. And I encourage people, my one missionary friend says, get close to the pain, because the pain's going to change you. And there's all kinds of people that think all kinds of things and believe all kinds of things, but they get the benefit of believing those things because they're very far from the pain. The real pain that people are going through, the actual pain. The actual pain is my friend that came up to me on Sunday morning who had an abortion and thought that she was doing a good thing, and the truth came into her life, and she realized what she has done.
Right.
And now, and I think the church has to have theology or thoughts for everything in between.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
We have to. You know, and as a culture, we got some pretty crazy things that we've got to deal with.
For sure.
Right?
Right.
I mean, you're a woman, Holly. I don't know. When I look at the culture, I think we hate women.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, I think. Yeah.
And the way we treat women, the way we talk about women, the way we act towards women, I'm like, you know, there's just such a devaluing of real womanhood, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's crazy. And I don't know why women take it.
I don't know. I think maybe some think, oh, they deserve that, you know? Just how they were raised, or because their mom lived like that. You know, I think it has a lot to do, I think, with culture too, you know, like you've been saying. It's just they don't know any other way.
Yeah, and in the church, I think the church, if I'm okay, you know, I could say all kinds of things on this podcast, but I think the church hates women. The way the church Christians act towards women, I think they hate women.
What makes you say that?
Well, because it's like if you get, I see these church cultures, you know, it's like the women can't, oh, you know, we don't have women leaders, and women can't do this, and women can't do that, and women shouldn't do this. It's like, so a young girl coming up into church in certain Christian cultures, I'm like, all a woman's good apparently for is like stay at home and have a baby. In certain church sections, you know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man. You know, so it's like, I see women, I'm like, okay, well, what's their choice inside the Christian world? Not that much. And then it's like, I'm not devaluing having a baby. That's amazing, and the only women can do that. But I'm just saying, in the Christian world, as women get older and as women develop, or even they pass having babies, well, it's like, well, that now you go take care of the women that are having babies. And so there's this idea that I think women struggle with. The culture, I think, treats them like trash. And then inside the church, it's like, well, what's my option and how do I develop? And I just think that we need to do a better job in helping women develop overall. It's like, yes, having a baby, first of all, is an amazing gift, and only you can do that. Right? Okay, so first, let's get that at the top of the list. Second is, you're not going to only have babies. So what else?
We can do other things.
Well, you can do other things. So what else? And what is the process for development, you know, for women, and how do we treat them, and how do we develop them, and how do we care for them, and what does it mean to be a woman, and all those questions. And I think that the church has to do a better job of that, because I think for young women coming into the church, what's their go-to? Be a wife, have a kid. Okay, and then what? And then what? And then when I look at the church world, you know, where 67% of evangelical Christians get a divorce. Does anybody think that has anything to do with how we treat women?
I'm reading Lisa Bevere's book, The Fight for Female, and she talks a lot about how Satan is specifically targeting women and has since the beginning of time, and that he's after women because they are, you know, the heart of the family. They can have children.
Yes.
And he doesn't like life.
Satan hates the seed, Matt and Holly, and listening.
Yes.
He hates the seed because what comes from the seed? A child defeats Satan.
Right.
He hates it.
Yeah. Yeah, and she also talks about how the church is the bride of Christ.
Right.
And so he doesn't like that either.
No.
You know, and you've got that female connotation. So just everything female, and he's after. And I also think that, you know, I've met a lot of women in my life who hate men, and I think it's because of the way they're treated.
Yes.
And I think that trickles down to their children, their daughters, and their kids, and this is what the world has become. We hate women. Not me, but you know.
Right.
Just, I think, and men just are always, not all men, but I'm saying they just abuse women, they overpower them, you know, treat them like crap, and then this is just where we are. This is where we've landed.
Right.
Women hate men.
Right. You know, and so exactly, women hate men, and as a result, women hate themselves.
Yeah.
And as a result, well, let's just not have any more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is, like, can we stop it?
Stop the madness.
I'm like, confess, come to the truth, admit the truth. And I just think that's where I am as a leader. I want the church to start admitting the truth. I want people to start admitting the truth, because it's only when we start admitting the truth and dealing with the truth that there's any change. And I know it's messy. I know, but I don't know any way to do it. I don't know how to do it. Men hate themselves, women hate themselves, we hate each other, and so we do terrible things to one another. And the church has got to stand up and stop it. And stop underwriting it and stop supporting it, and we have to provide a pathway out of this. And I think it starts with saying the truth. Then I think it starts with beginning to engage practically in all these programs. Adoption used to be the church. Healthcare used to be the church. Homeless care used to be the church. Education used to be the church in this country. Not all over the world, but in this country, those are all things that came from Christians. Now, Christians do jacked up stuff too. I know. But what Christians have done is stop caring about adoption, stop caring about the homeless, stop caring about the widow and the broken, stop caring about education, stop caring about healthcare. We've stopped caring about all that stuff. We've pulled ourselves out. We've given it all over to the government, and this is what the government has done with it. They're writing checks to other people while our people are suffering. And I think Christians should start saying to the government, stop doing that. Start calling life what it is. Start developing these things inside of our society. And if the government's not going to do it, then Christians should start doing it, because that's how it changes. And I'm going to live on that hill. That hill's my home. And I'm digging in on that hill. And I'm doing it because of that young girl that came up to me on Sunday morning who's never been able to tell anybody in her life the truth about what happened. I'm doing it because her life matters. I'm doing it because her baby's life matters. I'm doing it because that girl who stands up on stage and says, my mother was raped and my life matters. I'm doing it because her life matters. I'm doing it because the old person who has been neglected and left to die by themselves, their life matters. I'm doing it because every single one of those lives matters and everything in between. And that's why Jesus came, because all life matters to God. And I just think Christians have to come from that perspective. And I know it's hard, and I know it's a lot. To be continued next episode. I don't know. But and I mean that. I mean to be continued. So I'm trying to learn. But that's what I have so far. And I don't hate women, and I don't want to hate women, and I want women to have a place in our church and be able to develop. I want young women and children to be able to develop. That's why we have the men's and women's ministries. We're doing all this work. But so I don't know if this is helpful for you or hurtful for you, but
it was good.
It was good, yeah.
That's what I got.
Yeah. After all that, that's what you got.
Yeah, that's what I got. So any other questions or?
No, I think we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And listen, I mean this for those that are listening to this. I know this is a hard topic. I know there's all kinds of questions that come to it, and the questions matter to us. You can email us at info@alm.tv. You can reach out to us. If you are someone who's had an abortion, there is care and help for you. And if you've been suffering and struggling with that, there are people. And Deeper Still is a ministry that is all over the country. And it's post-abortive care and counseling for you. And if you've never been able to unpack that decision with somebody, I want you to know that you can. And I want you to know that there's life after that, and you don't have to suffer silently anymore. You can come and receive help, and you can reach out to us, and I pray that you do. And those of you that have questions on these things, listen, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to us. You can email us. Listen, I want to help people find answers to these things to the extent that we can, because I do think that there's answers. And the answers are tough, and the answers are hard, and that is true. But we can do hard things in life. We can. And because the mother's life matters, the baby's life matters, and if we don't do something, we're going to destroy ourselves. And that's what we're currently doing. Right. We're destroying ourselves. And I just think that it's, what's the best way out of a hole? Start climbing out. What's the best way? You just start. So I want to start, and I know that there's other people, and my prayer is that God would connect us to other people who care all about life, and other people who want to do something about it, and we'll do something about it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this moment, for this conversation and for this time. And we just ask, Lord, for your blessing over it. Those of you that are watching, God, I pray for your Spirit to be in them and over them, and that you would guide us in all things, because I know that there's real answers to the questions that we have. And Lord, our culture is really messed up, and there's all kinds of difficulty and confusion and problems and real questions and real pain. But I know that you have answers to those things. And so help us, Father, help us. We need your help. And I ask for Christians, your people, to step up and care and sacrifice and engage with people, Lord, and that we would not stay quiet and stay silent, and we would not stay lazy and just kind of build our separate kingdoms and not engage. But help us to be able to engage in real life with people.